Welcome to the H-Files. I am Mr. Anda, and today we have a truly special episode dedicated to an extraordinary individual. We are honoring a man named Ash. He's a man of integrity, courage, and compassion. He selflessly served in the United States Army, earning the right to wear the revered patch of the Big Red One. Ash's journey led him to combat during Desert Storm, where he displayed remarkable bravery and resilience. Upon returning home, Ash encountered the difficult reality of readjusting to civilian life, a challenge shared by many of his brothers and sisters in arms. Recognizing the struggles faced by fellow veterans, Ash made a heartfelt decision to dedicate his career to supporting them. Working with the VA, he has personally assisted thousands of soldiers coping with PTSD, providing invaluable support and guidance. Ash's unwavering commitment to his fellow veterans is truly commendable and serves as an inspiration to us all. His dedication and empathy embody the spirit of selflessness and service. Ash, we thank you for your honorable service in the U.S. Army and for your ongoing efforts to uplift and assist your fellow veterans. In honor of Ash and all those who have served and continue to serve in the Big Red One, this is your story. How the Big Red One came to be. In the early 19th century, the United States stood on the brink of a transformative industrial revolution with the potential to reshape its society and economy. The rapid expansion of industrial activity led to a significant increase in production capacity. However, the surge in output exceeded domestic market demand, compelling the nation to urgently explore new markets abroad. Opening foreign markets was not just about selling American products, but also about securing a stable supply of raw materials to sustain the growing industries. For instance, the booming automobile industry heavily relied on essential resources such as rubber, which had to be sourced from overseas. Additionally, minerals and oil were obtained from abroad to ensure a consistent supply without facing local competition or regulatory obstacles. Those titans of finance who wielded the greatest influence in society were often deeply connected to America's economic pursuits. Wealthy entrepreneurs, financiers, and industrial magnates understood the strategic benefits of extending American influence over foreign territories. Leveraging their considerable lobbying power, they made substantial investments in overseas enterprises and, at times, employed manipulative tactics to ensure that government decisions aligned with their interests. They sought to cement America's economic preeminence in regions historically dominated by European powers. During the 19th century, the belief in manifest destiny, which emphasized the expansion of American influence to the Pacific coast and played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's ambitions, came to an end once the coast had been reached. However, the desire for more territories persisted. The focus of manifest destiny shifted towards overseas territories, reflecting a significant change in the nation's approach to territorial expansion. This transformation was closely intertwined with the economic interests driving the age of imperialism. With the United States rising as a dominant force both economically and militarily, there emerged a compelling urge to showcase this newfound power to the world. This drive led American leaders to seek overseas territories and extend their influence globally, aiming to cement the nation's position as a key player in global politics. The pursuit of colonies and territories was accompanied by a strong sense of national pride and a belief in American exceptionalism. It bolstered the conviction that the United States was extraordinary and destined to take the lead on the world stage. In February 1895, the Cuban struggle for independence from Spain began. The Spanish tried to halt the rebellion, which was portrayed in a sensationalized manner by some newspapers through yellow journalism. The sentiment created by these papers led to increased American sympathy for the Cuban rebels. The U.S. sent the battleship USS Maine to the harbor of Havana, Cuba, to protect American citizens and interests. However, an explosion on February 15, 1898, destroyed the ship and killed 268 sailors. Although newspapers claimed it was a Spanish attack, no concrete evidence supports this. Nevertheless, the American public was outraged. Spain, recognizing the imminent threat of war, tried to avert the crisis by announcing a program on April 9, 1898, to grant Cuba limited self-government. In response, the U.S. Congress issued resolutions asserting Cuba's right to independence and demanding the immediate withdrawal of Spain's armed forces from the island. They also authorized the use of force to ensure this withdrawal. With no other options, Spain declared war on the United States on April 24, 1898. In return, the United States declared war on Spain, retroactively dating the declaration to April 21, 1898. The Spanish-American War was a rather one-sided conflict, with Spain finding itself ill-prepared to face the might of the United States. On May 1, 1898, Commodore George Dewey led a U.S. naval squadron into Manila Bay in the Philippines, decisively defeating the Spanish fleet in just 2 hours. Dewey even paused the battle to order his men a second breakfast. The American casualties were minimal, with 10 sailors lost, while Spanish losses exceeded 370. By August, U.S. troops had taken control of the Philippines. In Cuba, the Spanish Caribbean fleet, led by Admiral Pascual Cervera, was located in Santiago Harbor by U.S. reconnaissance. General William Shafter's troops, Theodore Roosevelt, and his first volunteer cavalry, known as the Rough Riders, landed on the coast east of Santiago and advanced towards the city. While Cervera's fleet was attempting to escape, they were heavily fired upon by U.S. guns, leaving them either burning or sinking. Santiago surrendered to Shafter on July 17th, effectively bringing an end to this significant but brief conflict. In a remarkably swift series of events, the United States achieved victory over Spain, securing the freedom of Cuba and gaining control of the Philippines, Puerto Rico, and making strides toward annexing Hawaii. However, it became increasingly clear in Washington that the U.S. lacked sufficient military resources to manage these new territories, in addition to safeguarding the southern borders against Mexican bandits and Native American uprisings. Consequently, in 1901, Congress sanctioned the formation of 5 additional regular Army infantry regiments, the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th Infantry. These regiments initially served by combating Mexican bandits and resolving disputes in the Indian territories. Subsequently, they were deployed to the Philippines to suppress a rebellion, before being redeployed to confront bandits in Mexico. Their operations remained relatively routine until 1914. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary visited Bosnia-Herzegovina, a region recently annexed by his empire, provoking tensions with neighboring Serbia. The Archduke's purpose was to oversee military exercises in the area. Upon learning of his visit, a Serbian terrorist group called the Black Hand dispatched Gavrilo Princip and several others to carry out an assassination attempt on the Archduke. While traveling with his wife, Sophie, Franz Ferdinand's motorcade passed by the corner of Appel Quay Road, where Princip happened to be. In a pivotal moment, Princip drew his gun and shot both the Archduke and his wife. As the Archduke lay mortally wounded, his last words were to his wife, and I quote, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." Sadly, within minutes, both of them had succumbed to their injuries. This tragic event set off the chain reaction that ultimately led to the outbreak of World War I. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to delve further into this historical event. In Europe, trench warfare and chemical attacks were causing heavy casualties, leading to the loss of an entire generation of men. America initially tried to stay out of the fight, but events such as the sinking of the RMS Lusitania cruise liner by a German submarine named U-20, costing 125 American lives, and Germany's attempt to bring Mexico in as its ally against the U.S. forced America's hand. As a result, the United States officially declared war on Germany on April 6, 1917. President Wilson committed to sending a division of men over immediately, despite not having a complete division to spare. To address this, the Army took 4 regiments created in 1901, which we discussed earlier, added 3 artillery regiments, the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and renamed them the 1st Expeditionary Force, commanded by Brigadier General William Sibert. The 1st Expeditionary Force consisted of just over 28,000 men, which was twice the size of either the Allied or German divisions. In the early days of June 1917, the courageous members of the 1st Expeditionary Force paraded through the streets of Washington, D.C. en route to New York Harbor, where they would embark on a journey to Europe. During this historic march, countless well-wishers from across America flocked to Washington to bid the soldiers farewell. The air was filled with the sweet scent of kisses and flowers, and the sound of a beloved song composed especially for them by George M. Cohan, "Over There." Unfortunately, I can't play the entire song due to copyright restrictions, but I highly recommend listening to it. This is a clip of that very march through Washington, with George Cohan's stirring rendition of the chorus line.
So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's...
The troops of the 1st Expeditionary Force arrived in Liverpool, England on the misty morning of August 12, 1917. General Pershing assumed command of the men and wasted no time initiating intense training sessions to prepare for the impending battles. Despite skepticism from the English and French leadership, who questioned the capabilities, courage, and resolve of the 1st Expeditionary Force, General Pershing ardently focused on honing the skills of his men while skillfully deflecting attempts to divert the American troops to fill the ranks of the English and French forces. Each American soldier serving in the 1st Expeditionary Force during World War I was equipped with the reliable M1903 Springfield rifle, known for its exceptional accuracy and dependability. Officers and select enlisted personnel were also armed with the M1911 pistol, while machine gunners carried the powerful Browning machine gun. In addition to their firearms, soldiers carried a bayonet and a separate knife for close combat situations. The iconic Brodie helmet provided crucial protection against shrapnel, and soldiers were further safeguarded by the M2 gas mask, essential for defense against the threat of German mustard gas attacks. The soldiers wore wool uniforms consisting of tunics, trousers, and puttees for additional support around the legs. Sturdy leather boots were worn to withstand the rigors of marching in combat. Each soldier carried essential items in their haversacks, including personal effects, rations, and extra ammunition. They also carried a small shovel for digging trenches and defensive positions, mess kits containing a metal plate, cup and utensils for meals, and canteens for hydration. Furthermore, they were equipped with basic medical supplies for treating injuries, as well as blankets and ponchos for warmth and protection from the elements. Ammunition pouches were worn on the belt to ensure they had a sufficient supply of rounds readily accessible during combat situations. The most distinctive part of the soldier's uniform and essentials was the patch on his shoulder. It featured a vivid red number 1 centered on a sturdy green shield. This insignia denoted membership in the esteemed 1st American Expeditionary Force. It was the French soldiers who bestowed upon them the moniker Big Red One, inspired by the design of their patch. However, it was the division's men, through their unwavering courage, strength, and resilience, that elevated the patch to a symbol of immense honor and awe-inspiring bravery. This enduring legacy has been embraced and reinforced by every following generation of Big Red One soldiers. On March 21, 1918, the German army unleashed a relentless offensive on the British 3rd and 5th Armies near the Somme River. Their target? The strategically crucial city of Amiens. With its vital railway connections between the British and French sectors, Amiens was key to coordinating Allied forces. The German plan aimed to drive a wedge between the British and French, forcing them to shift their defenses and ultimately dictating the course of the war. The ensuing German advance posed a grave threat, plunging the Allied forces into a desperate struggle for survival over more than 2 intense weeks. When the dust had finally settled and the smoke lifted, the battle lines had drastically changed. The Germans had pushed 40 miles westward, and now they were only 70 miles from Paris. The French and English made 7 desperate attempts to push the Germans back and close the bulge, but they failed every time. General Pershing and the Big Red One were eager to roll up their sleeves and get to work. The French generals doubted that the Americans were ready for this type of fight. Pershing responded in defiance, saying, and I'm paraphrasing, "Hold my beer and watch this." Pershing devised a bold and daring new plan of attack, the first of its kind. He decided to use French warplanes and tanks to assist in his assault on Cantigny. On the morning of May 28, 1918, Pershing and the Big Red One received the go-ahead. They were ordered to assault and capture the town of Cantigny, with flamethrowers and tanks leading the way. When the whistle blew, the men of the Big Red One emerged from their trenches and charged headfirst into the German lines. The battlefield was filled with the deafening roars of warfare, the earth trembling beneath their feet. By the end of the day, they had not only captured 100 German soldiers, but had also taken their objective. General Pershing ordered that no inch of Cantigny was to be surrendered. Over the next 72 hours, the Germans launched several massive counterattacks, but the Big Red held their ground, their valor shining brighter than any star in the night sky. By the time British and French relief finally arrived, the total U.S. casualties at Cantigny had reached over 1,000. The soldiers of the Big Red were exhausted from the strain of continual shelling. Colonel Hanson Ely of the Big Red wrote, "They could only stagger back, hollow-eyed with sunken cheeks, and if one stopped for a moment, he would fall asleep." As the Big Red One claimed the first major U.S. victory in World War I, it became apparent to England and France that the soldiers from America were a hell of a lot tougher than they had given them credit for. They also realized that General Pershing was right. The United States could and should have an independent command on the Western Front. More importantly, it gave the Germans a huge wake-up call. Although recently arrived and new to the battlefield, the Americans should not be underestimated. After the Battle of Cantigny, Big Red fully engaged in the major battles of Soissons, Saint-Mihiel, and the bloody Argonne. From May 1918 to the armistice on November 11, 1918, the 1st Expeditionary Force suffered more than 20,000 casualties, including killed, wounded, and missing. The soldiers of Big Red exhibited remarkable bravery and unwavering resilience, serving as an enduring testament to the indomitable spirit and steadfast courage inherent in our American military. Their legacy has been passed down through the ages. Generation after generation of men and women serving in the Big Red have upheld that tradition. They have honored those who walked that walk before them by popping tall in the face of overwhelming adversity. In every war since World War I, with the exception of the Korean War, the Big Red One has always been the first to put boots on the ground and the last to leave. If you would like to know more about the major battles in which the Big Red One was engaged in any of the wars after the First World War, please let me know in the comments, and I'll cover it for you. For all of you watching who served in the Big Red One, this is the story of how your division began. To Ash and all those who served throughout the years in Big Red, you have carried on that tradition of honor through your courage and unwavering spirit. I would personally like to say, my wife thanks you, my daughter thanks you, and I thank you for standing on that line and telling everyone back home to sleep easy. Nothing will happen to you on my watch.